Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of The Grandstand here on the Ohio Patriot Education Network YouTube channel. I'm, as always, your host, AR the Ohio Patriot. And for today's episode, we're going to talk about the very real possibility that there is a cover up going on with the whole Nashville Manifesto. For those who don't know what that is, basically, it was the manifesto that was left behind by that piece of shit that committed that atrocity in Nashville a few weeks back now. Actually, it's almost 2 months now is what it is. And it seems like since they found out there was a manifesto, that the local law enforcement and federal agents and everything else like that have been trying to cover up the stuff. But what's interesting is, and this is something I just saw a few minutes ago here, which I was doing the grandstand on it, was that now the Covenant school that the actual massacre happened at is now trying to file motions to suppress the manifesto as well, which really begs the question, what the fuck is in this manifesto that y'all don't want coming out? And I can make assumptions right now. I'm going to make assumptions right now. I believe that the shooter in this situation was probably molested by somebody at that fucking school, or multiple teachers for that matter, at that school. And I think that's exactly what I'm trying to cover up right now. And that's the problem right now when it goes to, I don't care if it's Christianity or Judaism, Islam, whatever the case be, all of them, there is sick depravity in all of them, dude. All these religious, doctrines and stuff like that. Whether it be priests in Christianity and various other religions related to Christianity, or whether it be pretty much the basis of Islam and stuff like that, or Judaism for that matter, has some of it in there too as well, with various rabbis and stuff that have been caught with kids over the years. And that's the problem though, right? Is you have so much of the shit going on and nobody ever wants to talk about it is the problem though. And like I said, it really makes me wonder, like, why would you not want the manifesto released unless there's like direct fucking things in there that say, hey, this happened in XYZ kind of ways over the years or something like that. And that's why this person potentially, finally sort of snapped is what it was and went all psychotic and went there on a killing spree is what it was. Now, granted, that being said, does that justify the killing spree? No, it does not. No, it does not at all. Especially when you're killing innocent kids is what it is. Now, granted, that being said, if their intended target was that principal or a teacher or something like that, it would actually make sense then if that would all be part of that manifesto. Would it make sense why they're trying to cover up that manifesto then if that be the case? So I don't know. It just seems really fucking fishy to me in general. And I wanted to talk about this honestly. But yeah, this is from the Post Millennial, which is the Andy No, and a few other people are part of that as well. I think Lauren Chan is the one that runs the site or something, if I'm not mistaken. And then Andy No writes for him and stuff like that. Yeah, it says breaking. Covenant School files motion to block release of trans shooter Audrey Hale's manifesto. School argues that the release of this information could potentially endanger the security and safety of the school, its staff, and its students. Again, how? How would it endanger your safety and security of your staff and students? Unless, of course, it's that there's a whole grooming ring going on in that fucking school potentially as well. And that's the thing. It's not like we haven't talked about that before on this channel, where you got fucking literally pedophile rings in Hollywood and in the U.S. government both that are basically coordinating each other and stuff like that and going like these crazy big ass circles, what it is, where they sort of enshrine each other eventually then. And they do that crossover thing. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by it, dude. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bunch of fucking child molestation going on in these school systems and stuff like that now, especially public education for that matter. But then also private education for that matter as well on that one. I mean, hell, seriously, when you look at public education for that matter these days, dude, look at how many fucking female predators are being caught these days now, where it's legitimately, some like 20, 30, 40-year-old woman or whatever the case be, has been a teacher for, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it is. And then all of a sudden they're caught with like a 14 to 16-year-old male student or something like that. Or simultaneously, it's like maybe even younger than that for that matter. I mean, hell, you look at Mary Kay Letourneau's story was a great example of that. With that, was like his name? It's like Billy Vallejo, something like that. And yeah, she fucking groomed that kid hard. And then it wasn't until years later, after he had, sort of thought he was in love with her and stuff like that, and they got married and had, raised them kids together and stuff like that. They had through their sexual exchanges, what it is, obviously. Ended up being in a situation where he realized, like, oh no, she actually fucking completely groomed my ass. And essentially came out of the woodwork then and was like, yeah, this is fucked up. Like, it was not okay. Like, what she did was not okay. But the thing was, like, how, like, because I remember watching the Lifetime movie about that shit, and it was, the way they portrayed it was basically he was an aggressor almost at, like, the age of, like, 13 or 14 at that point to her, and she was basically some weird, like, I don't want to say, like, lonely housewife that was a teacher, but, like, it almost felt like that, and I think it was more, like, supposed to be, like, a shelter thing for specifically Mary Kay Letourneau is what it was. And the thing was, though, it's like she should have known better. She was like in her 30s and stuff like that. It's like you're the kid's teacher. Like, if he's actually being like that fucking forward about things, like, no, you fucking throw his ass out of that school, man. You kick him out of there and stuff. You don't fucking sit there and be like, oh yeah, just meet me around the fucking back and stuff like that, kid. It's fucked up, man. And that's the problem with these fucking sick ass predators like that, dude. Is they want to sit there and act like it's perfectly okay or whatever. And that's the real problem in our society in general, too, as well. It's that fucked up double standard where it's like, okay, you got some fucking like older dude or whatever, and then it's like a teenage girl or whatever the case be. Everybody's like, yeah, beat that fucking guy to death or whatever. And then meanwhile, when it turns out it's like a fucking, 30, 40-year-old woman, and it's like a fucking 13, 14-year-old boy, they're just like, oh, okay, whatever. Actually, there was a great episode of Shameless about that, actually, back in the day. I think it was like season 1 or 2 of that show where it was them, like all the guys in the neighborhood and stuff like that, finding out there was like a registered sex offender or whatever, and then that was moving in the neighborhood or whatever. They're like, well, yeah, let's go beat the shit out of that dude, basically. And then they show up and knock on the door. It's like some like attractive woman or something like that, and they're just like, yeah, I'm gonna go back home now, kind of thing. And it's like, what the fuck, man? And again, it does go back to the double standard of our country right now, and it always has been, honestly. And it's just disgusting both ways, honestly, man, because it's like, it doesn't matter if you're a man, doesn't matter if you're a woman, like, you're still a depraved piece of shit doing sick, disgusting, unspeakable acts to children is what it is. And that's the biggest problem right now entirely. So, yeah, it really does bother me knowing that this fucking school is now like, oh, but it could endanger, like, how is it going to endanger you? Seriously. Like, it doesn't even make any sense at all, dude. So, but anyway, we're going to finish reading this real quick, and then we're going to finish up this episode from there. This is good. This is actually gonna be a really short one, probably about maybe 20 minutes, if that. So, but going down the line now, here it says, Covenant School, the Nashville Christian Academy that was the site of the brutal mass shooting by the trans killer that killed 3 children and 3 adults, has filed a court motion seeking to intervene in lawsuits demanding the public release of Hale's manifesto. Says National Police Association and Tennessee Firearms Association have separately filed suits against the city with the objective of having the manifesto finally released. Like I said, about 2 months later is what it is. So these lawsuits have arisen as the Metro Nashville Police Department was in the process of reviewing the writings to assess the possibility of making them public. The school argues that the release of the information could potentially endanger the security and safety of the school, its staff, and students. The motion also asserts that the requested records in the lawsuits may contain sensitive information belonging to the school, such as faculty schematics and confidential data regarding employees and students. Okay, so here's the thing, right? How can you not just take that shit out then? If it's actual, like, okay, here's a blueprint of the fucking school, like, here's, teachers' data or students' data, or whatever the case be, okay, then redact. Like, seriously, dude. It's not like we don't have fucking redaction in this country. It's not like you don't have literal fucking government files everywhere where it's like, you have people just blacking shit out on that one, dude. And it's legitimately like fucking like, oh, here's X, Y, and Z thing or whatever the case be. And actually, when you're looking at that kind of stuff, it's either JFK style files or whatever the case be, or some of those real like shady ass ones like that, like RFK and stuff. Or it's, on the same vein of things on that one, it's like UFO sightings basically, where it's like, oh, private Biggs spotted, redacted, and then it's just redacted. At 14:30, Biggs was, left, redacted, and it's just like almost the entire page is just completely redacted kind of shit or whatever, but it's like, you still have like the little bit there is what it is. And that's what I'm saying. It would be the opposite of that. That would be the majority of it, but then you'd have like, redact the schematics of the fucking school, redact the fucking, teacher and student information, if that be the case. Like, it's not that hard to do, man. You could literally put out a redacted version of that, and you could have done that fucking 6 weeks ago, honestly, for God's sakes. And people wouldn't be like, why the fuck are you trying to hide the manifesto right now, dude? Because that's what it feels like they're doing right now, honestly. It feels like they're just hiding the shit in general because they're like, oh, we probably can get in trouble now if that be the case. The shit all comes out to light now. So, yeah, very fucking fishy in general, man. But, let's see where we're at now. Yeah, so comments data regarding employees and students. So regarding to the motion, Wally Darts, director of the law for Metro Nashville, issued a statement expressing support for the school's motion. Quote, Metro supports the motion because we believe the church and school have a right to be heard. Man, fuck you. No, you don't, motherfucker. When you're literally have this sick piece of shit do this, it should be public knowledge at this point exactly why the fuck they did it, exactly what their fucking motivation was behind it, so that it can be stopped in the fucking future. You suppressing this information for the past 2 months now is doing just that shit. You are allowing for another fucking massacre to happen at some point in the future, probably near future more than anything, at another school like this, dude, where you have another sick piece of shit fucking go nuts and do the same exact thing, dude. It's like enough is enough. Release the fucking manifesto, even if it's a little bit redacted because of that shit, where you have to redact like various things like that, like schematics and stuff like that. Okay, then fucking take a black marker and shoop out with that shit, and then release the damn manifesto as it is for the rest of the shit. Then, like, if you really think it's that fucking important or whatever the case be, redact the pieces of it and then release the fucking rest of it, man. So we can actually know what the damn motive was. So we can actually know what the fuck the entire thing was. And know exactly what kind of a fucking nut this person was. Like, honestly, right now, this whole thing just screams of a fucking psyop, dude, because they keep doing this shit as well, for that matter. So, anyway. Yeah, continuing on, though, it said that the director of law there said the school and church need to be heard. It said City of Nashville also weighed in, saying the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson does not oppose the intervention of Covenant Presbyterian Church of Nashville or the Covenant School. The Metropolitan Government believes these entities have important interest in whether the documents in that particular police department's investigation files are released to the public. Metropolitan Government supports their intervention and asks that the court give them the opportunity to participate in the show, cause hearing, and consider these interests and arguments. What a bunch of bullshit, dude. Like, again, this whole thing just screams, it's a fucking cover-up, legitimately, dude. That's what it screams of. It's like, red flag, red flag, red flag, cover up, cover up, cover up. Like, seriously, bro. I'm so fucking sick of, like, just the dishonesty at this point, dude, and just the complete fucking untruthfulness of so many people anymore, man. And it seems like, really, honestly, like, the more and more I see a shit, the more and more I'm just like, seriously, at what point is it not even a conspiracy theory anymore, dude? It's just fucking delayed reality at this point, honestly. You know, it's just like, hey, we know what the fuck's up. Just release the shit. And if you don't, we're going to sue the fuck out of you to make sure it gets released at some point. Like, it really just feels very fucking fishy in general. I'm getting sick and tired of it, really. And I think a lot of other people are too, man. And that's the problem. I believe, honestly, the reason that they did this shit and the reason they haven't released it yet is because of the fact that they're like, oh, look at how many Americans have all these super short attention spans, and we'll just forget about this in like a couple weeks is what it is, which a lot of people have, honestly, at this point, because it's been almost 2 months now. The thing is, though, I'm not going to let it go. There's a lot of other people that aren't going to let it go on the right and the center and stuff like that, nor should we be letting it go, dude, because, again, when you have some fucking psycho piece of shit walk into a fucking school, not walk into a fucking school, shoot a fucking gun into the fucking doors of a fucking school to break into that school, and then go on a rampage murdering a bunch of innocent people, yeah, I want to know what the fuck the motivation was behind that shit. So that we can actually have an insight and maybe be able to stop it in the fucking future. Maybe actually have the ability to intervene in the shit in the future without BS red flag laws or anything else like that in the books. Actually do 5150 psych holes on people. You know, do what needs to be done to get these people the serious mental help that they need right now and prevent this fucking tragedy from happening again. And it starts, honestly, by getting rid of gun-free zones across the board right now, dude. It starts by repealing that bullshit fucking law that fucking scumbag George H.W. Bush put on the fucking books back in the day, man. Back in the early 90s. And it continues on through there. That's where it starts, and it continues on with starting to basically repeal all the gun bans and shit like that across the border now, dude. Because until that happens, nothing's ever going to change. Until we get rid of gun-free zones and people can arm the fuck up in these places, nothing's ever going to change. You're going to continue to have soft targets. You're going to continue to have sick pieces of shit look at these places as soft targets and go to them to commit massacres. Enough is enough, dude. It's time to create hard targets. It's time to create a sense of Americanism and patriotism in this country again, and finally have our country be back to square one when it comes to being an actual, truthful constitutional republic. And it's as simple as that, really. Enough is enough. Release the fucking manifesto. And if you're not going to release the manifesto, all it's doing is adding more fuel to the fire for people like me to come out here and say what we're saying right now. To make assumptions, to make guesstimations that are probably correct, is my guess, honestly, at this point. Where it's like, yeah, what kind of pedophile shit are y'all covering up, man? Because that's what it fucking feels like right now. I could be totally off with that whole thing. Who knows? Like I said, it might just be them trying to cover up the schematics of the school and stuff, which again, if you don't want that particular piece released, okay, how fucking hard is that to just be like, you know, even if that, okay, so let's say it like this, right? Let's say that, or maybe like, okay, so let's say like that would be a page of the manifesto, right? So it's like, let's go ahead and say this manifesto is like, I don't know, like 30 pages or something like that, right? So like page like 6 or something is the schematics of the fucking school. Page 7 is the names of a bunch of staff and students and stuff like that. Okay, then rip those 2 pages out of the fucking thing, dude, and release pages 1 to 5 and 8 to 30. Like, how hard would that be? Or even in the same vein of things, leave those pages in there and just redact the shit out of everything is what it is, dude. Like, if that's what you're really worried about, it's not that hard. Redact that fucking info, or, again, you know, yank those 2 pages out or whatever the case be and say, this is the pages that have, and specifically come up with that particular statement would be. It'd be like, these have schematics, this had whatever else on it or whatever, then we don't want released. And then release the rest of it. The fact they're not willing to actually be forthcoming about that stuff, though, is exactly the problem that myself and everybody else have right now, dude. Because you have these people that are clearly acting shady as fuck and are continuing to act shady as fuck and not be forthcoming at all with any of this stuff and just trying to do like all kinds of secret maneuvers in the background is what it is. And it's like, for what, dude? So that people will forget about this? We're not going to forget about it. That's the whole point, dude. We are going to continue on, and we are going to keep hammering at your asses at that point and demanding the release until it's fucking released. So you might as well just release it. Like, we're not going to go away, man. We're just going to keep fucking, you know, it's going to be a war of attrition at that point. We're just going to keep knocking and knocking and knocking until it gets released at that point. So, yeah, it's just very infuriating. It really is, honestly. And again, it becomes this issue where it's like, you know, at what point is them not releasing this shit considered a threat to public safety then? Because that's what I feel like right now it is, honestly. Because you're sitting there suppressing this information that's very much vital information to have right now on this whole incident, this whole, you know, massacre is what it is. And the fact you're refusing to release it just proves my point right now. Where potentially you may want this to happen again in another school in that area or in another state for that matter. And again, I could see it from the perspective potentially of them being like, oh, we don't want to release it because it could make a copycat killer. Guess what, motherfuckers? It's already happening. You've already done that. The second the mainstream media lashed onto this piece of shit and tried to play them a fucking victim and stuff like that, and then you had the bunch of assholes from Mom's Demand, etc., who were trying to go to the state house there in Tennessee and fucking bitch and moan and be like, you need to pass gun control now. That would have done absolutely nothing to stop this fucking thing because this person should have not even been able to purchase guns. It should have been a prohibited person a while ago, just based on the medication and shit that they were on. And the fact that they were all fucking psycho in the head and they really should have been in a damn institution at that point, honestly. Instead of being out walking free amongst the people of this country and having voting rights. That's another big thing too, Will, for that matter. And by the way, for those interested on that one, before we finish off today, if you ever wonder why the U.S. government looks at the American people that are gunners in this country as the enemy now, and they want us disarmed, and they want us to catch charges and stuff like that. They want to make us felons and stuff like that. It's not just to take away our gun rights. It's to take away our voting rights too. That's their big end game, dude. It's to make sure that we never have voting rights ever again, and only their leftist fucking peon minions have the ability to basically vote their scumbag asses back into office is what it is. So yeah, it's basically a two-pronged attack. It's an attack against our Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms, to stop tyrants, and it's an attack against our voting rights and multiple amendments and stuff like that. I was trying to think exactly the ones offhand, but there's a few of them though. I don't know if I'm talking about them right now, but anyway, the entire point of the matter is, it is a situation where this could easily be resolved if they want it to be resolved right now, and they're refusing to resolve it is what it is. And I'm personally getting sick and tired of it. And I know for a fact a lot of my viewership out there is too, and a lot of other people out there that I've had communications with in the past couple of years is what it is, are also getting really fucking fed up with the two, man. As they should. Because again, it's like when you're not actually being straightforward with people and you're trying to hide something, what the fuck are you trying to hide? Why is this not being released? What are you actually trying to cover up right now? And I believe it's a lot, dude. I believe it's a mix between, honestly, child molestation, and I believe it is a mix of all the other crazy shit this motherfucker had written down and stuff like that. And they want to suppress it to basically appease the fucking quote-unquote trans community is what it is. Fuck that, dude. No. This is public information. This should be public information. This should be a record of public safety information at this point. And the fact that it hasn't been released, honestly, just screams that they're trying to cover this shit up is what it is. And I've had enough of it, honestly. And that's needs to talk about at the end of the day. So that's about it for today, though. I'll be back again. I wanted to do it last week. I never got a chance to. And I should have done it yesterday, actually, but I got really fucking tired and I ended up taking a nap for a while. So at some point tomorrow, I will be doing the Justin Holland Oathbreakers episode. That's the scumbag from Texas who claimed to be pro-2A and then sat there and fucked off and allowed a bunch of gun control to be passed out of committee and stuff like that into the Texas House is what it is then. So, and Holland should have been removed from office right then and there based on that alone. And that's what I'm saying about that at the end of the day. So, anyways. Yeah. But yeah, it's just like release the manifesto or get sued. It's as simple as that, man. And it's time for all these different people to come together and just start suing the shit out of these fucking people at this point, man. And be done with it. So, anyway, till later. I will see you guys in the next one.